Good morning, everyone. I request you all to keep yourself on mute for the entire session. Queries can be put up in the chat box and will be addressed at the end of the session. Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. I, Savita, deem it an honor to welcome you all to today's webinar on managing Gen Z. We have an eminent person to guide us on how to manage the Generation Z. Dr. Bala Koteshwari is the Dean Academics and the Principal at Sanskriti School of Business. She is a gold medalist in industrial psychology and completed PhD from Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. Having 16 years of research, teaching, and industry experience, she has guided PhD students in psychology, education, and management disciplines and has been in PhD channel for multiple universities. She has published 40 papers and book chapters on socially relevant topics in domestic and international journals. She is associated with National Commission for Women, Government of India in building legal awareness among young students. Her current areas of research include corporate social responsibility, energy management, green HRM, building values and positive attitude among youth, stress management, social entrepreneurship, and transformation in education. She strongly believes that right mindset of youth nurtured by teachers can create wonders for the nation. Profession of teaching is a responsibility towards society and nation. Teachers play a vital role in transformation of the nation. On behalf of the Oxford College of Science, I welcome you, Madam. I also extend my heartfelt welcome to our beloved Principal, Dr. Kavya Shri, Vice Principals, Dr. Bharti S. and Professor Gayatri Sudhi, and all the faculty members. I welcome the principals, heads of the department, and faculty members of various colleges who have joined today's webinar. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, Savita, for such a wonderful introduction. It's my pleasure to be here on this virtual dais, and it's always pleasure to interact with the faculty. Uh, and a warm welcome to everybody who are present, and a very good morning to all. And the topic, which is very relevant for the current scenario of teachers. Before going into it, I would like to have a overview on my campus where I'm working and a little details about it. As Savita mentioned, I'm heading the Sanskriti School of Business, which is located in the abode of Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. It is located in Puttaparthi, which is in Anantapur district. Ours is a B school with the PGDM program run by IMA, as well as with JNTU MBA, which is offered in dual specialization. As in cities, how the MBA program is packed with a lot of activities, clubs, and events, which is a norm in the MBA institute. We try and build the same culture here, and we are known for our 100% placement. And our specialty is that we are located in the rural area, so rural development is also the passion of our founder chairman, Mr. Vijay Bhaskar Reddy. And we have international tie-ups, collaborated with Austria University, where we exchange faculty and students, and it really helps us in capacity building also. And we have engineering college also with 5 branches of engineering in mechanical, civil, electrical, electronics, and computer sciences. This is a brief introduction, and we are located in a very, very green campus, and we can feel that live and fresh air when we enter the campus, because this is totally within the rural area. And with this brief introduction about my college and the institute, I would like to start the session, and I would like to share my screen. If you give me a minute, I will project my screen.
So that is how it is. But what negative feedback from what they told, where they told, who told?
I hope the slide is visible to you. I will put in projector mode.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yes.
It's visible.
Yes. Great. Yeah. It's always a pride and privilege to interact with the faculty, and the moment where we are standing, we are amidst of the Generation Z. So this topic, when we were discussing with Savita, we felt it is very apt, and we are rightly taking it as a topic of discussion, and it has been in the trend and contemporary issue of discussion among the teaching fraternity and academic events also. So moving on to who are these Generation Z, I'm more curious to know that they are born between 1996 and 2012, who are in the colleges, with whom we are interacting day in, day out, and whom we are teaching. More so in the period of COVID, all of us are mostly busy with the online classes and offline classes, or it is a combination of both. So we have to really understand the needs of the students and their characteristics to know is very important. Traditionally, the how we were taught and what was the teaching methodology is entirely different from how it has been for our next generation, and present generation is even more different from what has been in the earlier way when I started my career. So 16 years back when I started my teaching, I see my class different, and now the needs of the students are different. The way they want to interact with the teacher is different. Their learning abilities are different, and how they wanted the notes in the class, or what information they want to like to listen is entirely different. So with this difference, now it is time for us also to understand how we have to change our approach to teach the students. And I don't use the word teaching because that is outdated now. We are more facilitators. We are no more a person where we are holding a stick in our hand and students are going to listen to us. That days are gone. So we had to transform ourselves. That is what is the setting tone for today's discussion in this session. And I request the participants to be more interactive. Whenever you have any doubts or queries, please raise your query, and let us make it more a discussion forum. So knowing the characteristics of generations, that they are born with mobiles. Their play starts with playing on the mobile. They no more play with toys, but they start playing with the mobile and the games in that, or they start exploring more on the thing. They know things more than what parents need, or they are very, very tech savvy to say. And it is part of their daily routine. And fortunately or unfortunately, the online trend, which has more so because of COVID, we have been depending on the online services so much in terms of teaching and online delivery mechanism, or everything is more to do with online. So it makes them more comfortable now because they have all the reasons why they are using a phone, why they are using a computer, why they are on internet. So it makes us also feel that now we also get into digital tools for learning because it is their requirement as well. So very, very interestingly, they think that they are very loyal, they are very thoughtful, they are very intelligent, they are very smart, and they feel that they are very responsible, and they are very open-minded. So with these characteristics in the backdrop now, very interestingly, discovering the Maslow need hierarchy, if management faculty would know this better, that Maslow has discovered a need hierarchy of how each one of us would progress or identify our needs. When as a manager, how do you understand the needs of your employees? As an individual, how do you understand your own needs? This was very well explained by the management theorist Maslow. And this Maslow theory has been redefined with the new Zen Z students, where their needs are totally different. What was need for us when we were children is entirely different from what is the need of this Zen Z. So if you talk about the physiological needs, it was more to do with food, it was more to do with clothes and shelter for us. But for the present generation, Gen Z, what we are talking, their needs are different. They would like to stay in a place where they have good network and their batteries are charged, their phones are charged, laptop is charged, and they are always hands-on or holding the phone and sleeping and holding the phone and waking up, which says that it is a clear physiological need. Of course, food is important and shelter is important, but this redefined physiological need is more to do with the technology for them. And safety needs were more to do with having an insurance and organization providing us a long-term security and safety for our family. But for Gen Z, it is more to do with whether their data is secured or not, whether they have enough firewall protection in their systems, and when they are safe and following the Google Maps, are they reaching the right destination, whether parents are informed whether it's safe or not. All these things are concerned to be safety needs for the Gen Z. And coming to the third need, belonging and love, which talks about the family, about the interaction with your immediate society, about your relatives, how you are forming groups, because man is basically a social animal. So how belonging you are to your people was our need. Now, all these needs are shifted to the Gen Z as social needs in the form of connecting in the form of Facebook. How many people are there in my Facebook list, and how many groups are there in the WhatsApp, where family groups are different, academic groups are different, research groups are different. So at least each one of us are part of minimum of 50 to 60 groups where we are part of. So even for the students, it is even more. They have their interest groups, hobbies groups, even more larger way. So the redefining of the belongingness love needs are more to do with the presence of digital existence in the form of Facebook and WhatsApp. Coming to the esteem needs, where it is defined as the need of recognition, the need of being feeling proud about oneself, liking about oneself is self-esteem need, which means that when we get some appreciation, when we get some reward, when we get some increment, when we get some promotion, when we buy a new house, when we get a new car, what kind of feeling we get, that feeling good factor is called esteem. And this esteem needs are redefined with the current Gen Z in the form of existence or presence in the Twitter or Snapchat, and they feel good when somebody have more followers in the Twitter. They feel nice when somebody is praising you and liking your post. So finally, going to self-actualization, which talks about what actually an individual needs, what actually I want to do in my life, what is the purpose of my life. So for this, the redefinition for the Gen Z is that they want how many LinkedIn contacts I have, how much of presence I have in the YouTube in the form of creating my own channel, how many likes I'm getting for my YouTube, and how many followers I have here, and how am I able to reach out to the entire globe. That is self-actualization for them. So beautifully explained in the redefinition of the digital needs of Maslow. This helps as a teacher how we can understand their needs. We say that in the classroom you are not supposed to use the phone, or you are not supposed to carry the phone to the college. In some colleges they have the restriction also, or keep them switched off in bags. Instead, as teachers, we redefine ourselves that make them use, but say that for a learning purpose you are using it, and have a definition of why you are using a mobile, and have a check, have a monitoring mechanism of how they are using it meaningfully in your classroom. So I know that some of you might differ with this opinion, but then if you look at a conversion of a mobile phone from a device of chatting to a device of learning, that is where we have to build in our assignments, our classroom tasks which are given can be connected to it. So moving on to the next, so how do we deal with this? Understanding their needs, knowing their characteristics. Now, what is our role? Now, how do we deal with them? I know that faculty are of different age groups, are of different experience who are sitting on from diverse group. Some are from engineering, some are from management, some are from age group of above 50, some might be around 40, some might be early teachers who are in their late 20s also, because they choose a profession after they study. So they might be in their late 20s also. So catering to the requirements of students, how this entire diversified group of faculty can prepare. In fact, my observation from my earlier university where I was working was that the younger generation of teachers are more catching or meeting the requirements of the Gen Z, because there is not much difference to understand what they require, because they have just crossed the stage of the college and they know that what they require, which they in turn as a faculty will try to give it to the students. So how do we do this? I have tried to, as per my knowledge and as per my research, I have tried to put up certain strategies or certain pointers, which I can say that which might be helpful for us. I don't say that this is an entire list which is final, but there are a lot of inputs which you people can give, which innovative thoughts which you can contribute, and our ultimate aim is to reach our students completely. So going to the first one, now we need a paradigm shift. We're all going in one direction. Now there is a time to change. As we say, organization change, management teachers talk about organization change, organization development. But are we changing as teachers when we are teaching the same thing? So this is the time we realize that we need a shift. All what we are doing in the past, now is a time to stop it and think something new. how we can reach out to Gen Z so that our time what we are spending in the classroom is effective and value addition for them for their life. So now we have to create strategies. You create strategies, you develop online tools, you develop new teaching techniques, you develop an entire classroom setting where you are no more sitting in the class, but you are sitting under trees and taking class. So what is the strategy? Each of the teacher will know better about their class. But having said that, as per my understanding and my experience, I have tried to put up some strategies. And one of them is go digital. Many times what happens in the past, I have seen the trend with before the Gen Z also and Gen Z also. So this generation, they wanted everything handy. They wanted to do everything which is on digital, including their assignments also. So what you do, if I am teaching a subject, say suppose Maslow's need hierarchy theory, I teach a pointer or I use a nice slide in my classroom. At the same time, I also post a video which is very well drafted and very well explained by a person which is from NPTEL or a person from YouTube, which is standardized. And the teacher checks the quality and posts it to the student and then asks them to summarize it. This is a beautiful way where, because the current generation like to see more videos, like to listen to the things. So have this idea in the mind that giving assignment, you give some task like this. Put them, let them use the mobile, make them use the computer, but direct them to say that this is what you are learning and this is what is the takeaway for you. And ask them to submit it, the summary of whatever video you are posting. Or let them visit some online search engine and then browse and gather information, analyze and submit a report to you. So all this information, they are very curious to learn, to know, to explore. So this task of doing an online assignment for you and still submitting, it can be in hard copy to you or it can be online assignment for you. But the effort made by the student is searching on digital. So this helps them to like and enjoy because they want to be tech savvy. At the same time, as a teacher, your objective is also met, that you are making them to learn something in the process of listening, in the process of summarizing, in the process of analyzing, and then also ask them to give their observations. See, not necessarily students always accept what teachers say. Not always the student has to accept what the person is speaking on the video or presentation is being made. They might have their own thoughts. They can think differently. They might have a different point of view. So at the end of each assignment, ask them to give their recommendations, ask them to give their analysis, ask them to present their point of view. This actually is a new dimension which really the students will like and they will really contribute for it. Same way, assessments also. After every class, if you're able to spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes time in making 5 or 10 questions and have a Google quiz. Many times we feel 45 minutes class, 50 minutes class is not sufficient to do everything. Then why not have a Google form which is shared in the form of a link with them, which has the drafted 5 questions which you have covered in that day class and let them answer. And let them get a feedback immediately from you that you have done excellent, you have got full marks, you have done wonderfully well, or you need to improve. So this small exercises which we can create in the classroom or off the classroom, that is also fine. But still we are making them to use the technology in a constructive way and productive way. So if you plan your class, 50 minutes class, whatever concepts you are teaching, yeah, either you post a video connected to it, prior to your class, and then you teach your concept, and then ask them to summarize the video, and then give a small test. This completes that concept, that learning to reach the students more effectively. And this I have tried and tested. It is not that it is just theory what I am talking. This is very much practical, but the only limitation, or I would not say it is a shortfall, is that the teacher has to spend productive time, constructive time in planning each and every class. Do all of us have that time? The teacher has to take out time. And everybody has 24 hours. How you take out the time and plan your class to help the students to reach or understand your subject effectively is in our hands completely. So moving on to the next, break content into small chunks. Many times what happens, we have too much to discuss. So we put a lot of information in one class within the 45 minutes or maximum 1 hour class what we are taking. And more so, we MBA classes are for 2 hours. And thanks to Oxford, that they gave the thought to me when I was associated with Oxford College of Engineering in Gomanelli campus, that we had 2 hour sessions, and these 2 hour sessions, 1 hour was catering to the teaching of the concepts, and second hour was catering to the case studies or role plays or assignments connected to it. So that gives a complete picture of them where they are learning something and executing something. So fortunately, unfortunately, we don't have that 2 hour classes for all the faculty or all the domains of knowledge. But having 1 hour classes, how do we split the information which is given into small chunks, small groups? So for that, teacher need a proper preparation. For a theoretical sake or for a kind of inspection or a kind of submission to the department, all of us make lesson plans. All of us beautifully make our submissions to the HOD. But then how much of it actually we are implementing in the class, all of us to question ourselves. Why? Because something is in the teacher's diary or something is in the lesson plan. Is it imparted? Is it a thoughtfully planned one? Is it going to be implemented as it is? This requires a good amount of preparation for the teacher. Before I enter the class, is my information is going to be overload for the students? If yes, let me break it into small chunks. Small chunks is breaking the information into small bits, small portions. One portion you are giving it in first 10 minutes, and then 2-3 minutes of quick question answers which you can get and get a feeler how they are catching it. Then proceed to second chunk, third chunk, and fourth chunk. And if you feel the subject is very, very complex, very, very difficult for the students, break these chunks into different classes. So we are all belonging to different segments here. Some might be sciences, management, other groups also, engineering, etc. So depending on your subject complexity, you break your content into chunks. Sometimes 3-4 concepts can be covered in one class because they are very, very simple. As per the student's view of, sometimes we have to put ourselves in their shoes to understand whether the student is able to read and understand or what we are explaining. So basing on your understanding, basing on your thought process, you can use the chunking process to help the students to understand better. Because at one shot, lengthy information or more knowledge sometimes might not be accepted by the students because the attention span of the students is very, very less. They'll be waiting for the breaks to check their WhatsApp messages. Mind you, because that is how they are born with. We cannot avoid it. But having known this, how we can handle it is a challenge for us. Very importantly, now I think all of us use PPTs and all the class of digitized. Now more of us use PPTs in the classroom. But when you are using these PPTs or charts or any display aids you are using, aids in the sense assisting your teaching, any information you are using, develop them into information and graphs. This information and graphs is really, really helpful because they would not like to see lots of lines and slides which has content, but they would like to see more pictures. They would like to see very short and crisp statements about what you're explaining. They would like to see some data, some figures, some facts on their slide. So if you are able to cater to that requirement, put more visuals in your slides. And thanks to the technology, it is helping us also as teachers because lots of information is available on the Google. You just click on one, name the picture and then give as an image what I want. It is displayed in the Google. And you can use it, you can acknowledge it. Let us not worry that we are copying the content. We can acknowledge, if I am using this picture from the Google, put the source in the bottom. It means that we are not copying any information, we are using only for the teaching. So this can be beautifully done by the teacher, provided, again the disclaimer is, we have to spend quality time when we are doing this. Your content has to be very brief, and your narrative, if you are explaining a concept, try and put it as a story. Try and give bullet points and not big paragraphs in your slides. This applies for any kind of audience you are listening to, and especially the Gen Z, whose attention span is very less, whose spending of a minute or a second is very, very short, and we have to grab that and teach them in that short span which is given to us. So data, present charts, present information in the form of facts and figures they would love and enjoy, and this will help them to retain the information for longer time in their memory. All of us remember that when we tell stories, students replicate the same thing in the examination. I hope many of you have the experience. How many of you have this experience, if I can know? How many of them explain whatever you have explained as an example in their in the classroom scenario, what you said, same thing they wrote in the exam? How many of you have this experience? If I can listen from some of you. Whatever is written in the textbook also they will learn, listen, understand. But what you have said in the classroom, they will replicate the same thing. Yeah? Anything in the chat box? Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. I hope everybody are following. So with that assumption, I'm moving on to the next slide. So using digital tools as well as chunking your information into small portions or bits, and using infographics in your presentations, which is really effective for the Gen Z especially. And one example I have presented here of how you can use the infographics, because I was under the assumption that you have the majority of the crowd from the sciences college. So if you're explaining about the human body and what are the various systems or the physiology in the human body. So instead of explaining it so much theory and putting lots and lots of lines on the slide, you can put up one slide like this, which explains what different systems are there and how do they look like, because they are supposed to draw diagrams on it. They are supposed to identify when they are reading the textbooks or information. So one slide like this will give them an actual information of what different systems are there in the physiology of human body. And like this, each teacher can identify that how they can convert the information into beautiful infographics and present it to the students. So this is one example of the infographics of how we can use it effectively for the Gen Z. Moving on to the social media approaches to learning. As there is a beautiful psychological concept called as NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, in which we are understanding that we have different kind of learners in our class. We have visual learners who want to see and learn. We have auditory learners who want to listen and then learn. We have learners in our classroom who want to read, write, and learn. And there are learners who are kinesthetic, who want to do activity and learn. So what are the characteristics of these are here in the slide also, that visual learners, you have to cater to their requirement also. Auditory, they listen to the teacher. Each word, each vocabulary, what you are using in the classroom is recorded and registered by the student and is replicated and is memorized later even after leaving the class. Mind you, even in the online class also this applies. That is where the teacher is visible on the screen and they are ensuring that it is audible and reaching out to the students. And many of them like to read and write also. Read whatever you have posted, whatever you are showing on the slide, and also take down a couple of points. In a classroom, you observe there are some students who continuously take notes and tidbits what is given by the teacher. Irrespective, you say that I will post the PPT, still they will write down something, because they memorize, they retain information when they are writing, when they are drafting. And lastly, kinesthetic students are very, very restless. They cannot sit at one place. They will be moving, they will be shaking their hand, they will, something is in their hand which is moving, either pen is moving, or they are pinching somebody on the side, or doing something in the classroom. So for this kind of students, do some activity. Plan something which will keep them busy. Ask them questions once in a while, because they are not able to sit for a silent for a longer time. So I know that in a class we have combination of all these students. We cannot categorize them and give separate methodology for each one of them. I hope all of you agree for this. So these characteristics is a combination and which is present in the Gen Z also, and more to do with the social media habits or the technology orientation, which is part and parcel of their lives. So what you can do, primary and secondary social media tools we can use. As I said, built in lot of information content which is generated from TEDx, from standard sources of learning. This is again a disclaimer for the teachers that as teachers, we have to be very careful when we are posting any content to the student. It has to be as per the learning requirement of the student. It has to be the norms of the college which has to be followed. It has to be as per the content which can be received by the student. It should not be out of the situation or out of the context or irrelevant, or it should not give any other deviation from the learning experience of student. So choose wisely when you are choosing any content from the YouTube. So I personally use NPTEL post or the TED post or standardized posts which are done professionally made videos which can make their learning experience good. So you use this very, very wisely, use podcast, use, they like to write more on the Facebook, these kind of readers, people who are loving to read and write. And kinesthetic learners, they like industrial visit, they do case studies, they want to do role plays, they want to be doing projects, outdoor projects, do surveys, they are more interested in it. So in your study, you have a combination of all this. So in the evolution of a teacher, you discover new methods of how you convey your subject to your teachers. Nobody will tell you what exactly you are supposed to do. Curriculum is there, teaching methodology is there, but as a teacher, it is your responsibility to discover how you want to deliver your content for the Zen. So this is just a couple of insights which I am providing. And as teachers, I'm sure that you can make wonders with whatever facility of digitization which is available with us. As I said, we all no more we use the name teacher, and students never wanted teachers to be like very strict and very adamant and throw the assignments out of the classroom or scold in the classroom. The days are gone. The days are gone when students are accepting all this, and as teachers we have to accept it that the days are gone that students are going to take whatever we are going to give. As we say, they feel they are more matured, they feel that they are very intelligent and smart, but we have should not rule out or should not say that you are wrong. At the same time, you have to prove your expertise, your maturity in handle them. So your evolution from a lecturer to the instructor to a facilitator to a coach. When I say coach, you are not only helping them to impart the knowledge, what you have gathered to impart to them, but also coach them or in their career, how they can advance their career. In fact, many of the students approach teachers for this help, and there are mentors who are assigned. I think this practice is there in many of the colleges where each of the students, bunch of students are given one mentor. So the mentor duty is not just academics, it is also coaching them in their professional life, how to build their career, what options are available for a science student, what companies are able to give me, what kind of jobs, and all this help can be given by the mentor. When I say coach, it is also helping them. Some have poor study habits. Many of the times we label the students as good or bad, but we fail to understand that they have poor study habits, their listening skills, their reading skills, their writing skills. So if you go one step before and see what are their study habits, that is where we need to correct them. And I'm sure that the biggest disclaimer for all of us is time. Where do we have time for all this? All of us are busy with our schedules, with our activities to be conducted, conference to be conducted, research papers to be published. So where do we spend this time? And I again say that when there is a will, there is a way. You have to find time. Now you have groups created. Mentors, mentees can be in a single group. You interact with them. What is the assignment you are doing? What is the interesting you have learned? Throw them a task in the group. Let them come back with some innovative ideas and answers. I'm sure that they are going to connect with you very easily. As students, how they are using technology, let us get into their footsteps to understand how well we can accept that technology for their betterment. In the process, we also grow. As students grow, teachers also grow because we learn, we adapt, we change to the need of the day. Yeah. So this teacher is no more a teacher, but more as a mentor, as a coach. Very specifically, I have put this slide. I know that it is looking a little complex. I'll try to simplify it as possible. Education with care. Many of the times, we bring all the botherations as teachers, knowingly or unknowingly, to the class. We carry all the tensions to the college. We bring all the pressures from the department, from the institute to the classroom and throw it on the students. And I know some of you accept it and some of you have ego to accept it, but the fact is that. And let us take an oath that whenever we enter the classroom, that we treat students as our children. The way we deal with our children, the kind of love we shower on our children, if you are able to show it in the class, I'm very sure that the same thing is going to come back to you. Feel the love for them. And whatever simple concept or complex concept you are explaining, express that and say that in a very loving way, in very pleasing manner. And let us stop the habit of scolding them or demeaning them or humiliating them. That doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work, at least for Gen Z, it will surely not work. There is a beautiful concept called education with care, which I adopted this from Satyasai Institute of Higher Learning. The student excel in academics. Satyasai Institute students excel in career. They are placed in the best companies. They are heading a lot of businesses and they are spread across the world. And what is the basic pillar of this is building character or values in the education system. They do teach academics. They give high priority to academics. At the same time, they teach with care. They teach values. They build the character in the students. This is something which is standing out, which is reflecting in their behavior when they go out of the institute. I'm sure all the teachers want to be proud that their students have settled very well in their career, and all of us feel proud when they write messages, when they come back to us and say, Madam, because of you, we remember you all the time. They keep pinging you once in a while. They send greetings to you. This all feels very good. But the amount of satisfaction a teachers get when that person is a good human being, taking care of the family, with good character, with good values, that is where your satisfaction will reach sky. And with my own experience, I'm telling this is a wonderful experience which any teacher can have. How do they do? They work, they build the values which is going to benefit for the society, because our products, our students are going to go into society. So the values what you are imparting, the teaching what you are giving to build their behavior is going back to society. So as teachers, we are giving back to the society in the form of our students, our products. So whatever good they are doing, you are given a credit. Whatever bad they are doing, still the teacher gets a credit. So this is up to us to build the values when we are teaching. You say that there are separate human values subject or you have separate moral classes for it, that is not required. Build this conduct and character or small stories in your regular classes. Give some tidbits, give some morals in a very subtle way in the classroom, and students are very sharp to understand that what is the relevance of it and why you are telling it to them. And this character and academics, when they go hand in hand, and then when they benefit the society by transforming individuals, that is where our nation gets benefited, and we are all going to live in a wonderful place called Earth. And that is where we realize, and very especially in India, we always say that Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Everybody should be happy. We are not having COVID in our family, but are we happy? No. Why? Because the entire world is suffering. When the entire world is suffering, how we can be happy? We are praying for the entire world to be peaceful. Everybody has to be healed. Everybody has to be fine. Then only we are happy. That is what is the meaning of praying that people around me has to be happy. Then only I can be happy. I cannot be so selfish that the entire people are suffering and I can still happy. That cannot happen. Yeah. So how do they do it? Their co-curricular activities are their spiritual training in the form of teaching Vedas, because Vedas and our own mythology are taught in the classrooms as a training. And summer classes are conducted to impart value system. Experiential learning, they develop dramas, they build plays, which is rotating around human values. They have inspiring role models. They listen to regular discourses of the spiritual leaders, and they listen to the people, CEOs and entrepreneurs, how they are building their business ethically. So all these examples will set a strong stereotype in their mind that this behavior, this value is going to stay with me for my lifetime. Let me not shift my mind from right to wrong. Let me go in the right path. Let me follow righteousness. Let me follow the footsteps of the humanity that builds strongly in their culture. This is one model which I have extracted from their website to just present it for you. And this is called education with care. And very, very importantly, set an example. Walk the talk. Many of us teachers, it applies in the home also, that as a mother, as a father, we say so many things, but are we following it? Same thing reflects in the classroom also. When we are going there, we are standing and talking, don't tell lies. Come on time. How many of us would have told? Submit the assignments on time. Are we submitting our reports to our authority on time? Are we going to the class on time? Are we telling truth? This the students will observe. Some are verbal communication, some are non-verbal communication. So as a teacher, if you are following what you are talking, that itself is setting an example for your students. Whatever you say, you follow first. Students will automatically catch it. You don't need to explain it 100 times. Explaining one time is enough for them. They will observe you and learn. And as I mentioned previously also, the students in the present Gen Z are different. They need respect. They need dignity. The basic need of any human being is human dignity. And it applies for the student also. Anybody in the institute needs respect, right? From the watchman to the housekeeping to the one who cleans bathroom, everybody seeks respect. That is the basic human need. And that applies to the student also. We cannot humiliate them. We cannot demean them. We cannot taunt them. Give them specific constructive feedback if you are feeling that they are doing wrong. And you have to have patience as a teacher to deal with them. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times. Have patience. Deal with them. How you deal with your children? Try and see that you are imparting the same thing for the students also. You will not get angry. Even if you get angry on the child second time, you will try to console them and try to give your love. Same thing, why not to the students? The secret lies in education is in respecting the students. So our students are our own children. If we have that in our mind, then things will change automatically. You will start feeling differently. You will start experiencing things differently. I know this is not done in one day. It comes with practice. You have to constantly tell yourself that this is what is I'm going to the class. Today, responsibility on me is with the 60 students in the class who are equivalent to my children. Let me give my best. Let me respect them in all senses. So, and very importantly, this is not followed by many of us because we feel that students they will wait for the teachers maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, or if we go late to the class, doesn't mind. Yeah. So respect the time of Gen Z. Time is valuable for everybody. Yeah, it is not at all equivalent to money. It is greater, greater, greater than money because we cannot get back the time. The 5 minutes, 10 minutes which you have delayed in the going to the class, you are wasting the 10 minutes of 60 students. 10 into 60, 600 minutes you have wasted. So if we realize that each minute is important, each second they are waiting to listen to you, and you can never afford to delay anything. And same kind of, as I said, setting an example. Once you follow it, they take your time as important and they will submit your assignments on time. They will respond to you on time. And I'm sure that this all has to come with the practice. Day 1, day 2, day 3. And it is all a process of evolution. I hope that they will adapt to it faster as we do. So lastly, let us acknowledge that they are smart, they are creative, they are hardworking. See, everybody wants to be praised. Yeah, everybody have to have self-esteem, the feel-good factor. That feel-good factor comes when you start appreciating small thoughts which you can explain to them, which you can share with them, praise them, applaud them when they are answering their question. Yeah, and go with a big smile to the classroom, or in an online class, open with a big smile, open with a nice quote, motivation quote, give them a small inspiration story, open the classroom where they wait for your story each day. So all this is all which teacher can create wonderful or a wonderful experience for the students in the class. And this is all possible when teacher thinks that it is possible. So with this, I would conclude. I have put up some of the strategies which I thought is best and which has really helped me in my career to deal with the students. And I hope this would be really informative for you. And if there are any questions, if there are any queries, I would love to take them. And I I really want to interact with you if any queries are there.
Thank you, Balama. It was a wonderful session and very informative as well. Thanks for enlightening us on managing the Generation Z. Let's wait for a few queries. If there's any queries, you can please answer. Take few minutes to answer the queries.
Sure.
How to handle lazy students? There's a question here.
Yeah. I just saw the question. First, understand their what kind of learner they are. Would they love to listen and learn, or would they love to see? Like I explained, no, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Broadly, if you take three. So understand the laziness is maybe they are lazy in writing because that is not their learning style. Ask them to record their assignment and send. This is one of the trend which I also followed. So there was task which online assignments, a blessing in disguise, what all of us have gone through, because we have evolved in terms of how we are giving our task and assignment to students. So this lazy student might be interested in sending a video of whatever task which you have given. You identify as a teacher that what is the mode in which they want to submit. Let us not use same written submission assignment for all the students. You can open it and give a different task of giving a video or making an audio and send. Yeah? This would really help. In your opinion, which is better, online teaching or classroom teaching? See, at a present scenario, we don't have much choice. I hope all of you agree with me, because we have a partially online or partially offline. Definitely, offline teaching cannot be replaced, because the kind of eye-to-eye contact or the rapport which you have or the connect which you can form with your students, it cannot be replaced with the online teaching. Because in online teaching, whatever said and done, how much ever digital tools you bring, we are not completely sure whether all your audience or your participants or your Gen Z are engaged or not. In spite of doing polls or questions or charts, still there is amount of uncertainty of their presence and attention. So inevitably, offline classes are the best.
Ma'am, there's another question. Nowadays, students are thinking that they know everything. Their attitude is also the same. How to handle these type of students?
Yes, absolutely. They feel they are confident and they're 100% sure that they know everything. So not disturbing their confidence or self-esteem. Pose one or two questions where they realize that okay, we have so much to learn. We don't know so much. Still, there is something to know from the teacher. That they know when they give assignments or some assignments which information is not available in the books. When you throw some questions like that, then they realize that no, we don't know something. There is still lacuna. We need to understand. We need to talk to teacher to get this. So give some tasks which help them to understand that there are many things in the world which they are not aware. At the same time, let us not taunt them or demean them by telling that you don't know anything. You are good for nothing. We should not use that kind of statements. At least Gen Z will not accept it. Maybe as students we accepted it, and we have overcome all those things, but they will not accept it.
Another question, ma'am. By encouraging online learning, are we not exposing the children to other risks?
Yes, that check should be with the parents, because most of the time now children are attending classes from home only. So the parents can monitor. I know they are busy with their office work from home, etc., etc. Once in a while, checking the children of what they are exposed to, or have some protections, have some lock system of they are not going into unnecessary sites. This monitoring and checking is required. They might not like it, but as parents, this question is from the parents' perspective, right? Yeah, so because it is in the situation of the online classes, but the same thing when you're giving an assignment in the classes also, and you are monitoring in the class to do it, you yourself can go around many times. What happens, no, in earlier to COVID also, we were giving online assignments in the classroom. Check in the give a task and ask them to Google it and submit or give a presentation. So what they do, the teacher will give the task and relax, sit in the chair, or they will be busy with their mobile and WhatsApp. So instead, you go around the classroom and monitor them. What exactly they are doing? Are they working on your project? Are they working on the task what you have given? This is checked by the teacher. They will not
The
mind it because you have given the task for it. If it is a parent, of course, checking at the home and taking care that unwanted sites are not given to the restricted duct, we have to take care.
The next question is like this: how to tackle the issues of adverse effects of social media on students?
Social media, this is the biggest challenge which we have. There are lots of messages, information pouring in through the social media in the form of different blogs, posts, YouTube channels, WhatsApp messages. So many things are coming. So what we can do as a teacher, I will say, or as a parent, I would answer this separately. But as a teacher, always tell them and guide them what is right, what is appropriate, and what to follow. What is the code of conduct for them when they are getting exposed to so much of information which is not relevant? What to accept or what to reject? Yeah, they need to know what is happening in the world. At the same time, it should not be too much overflow of the information that they are losing their peace of mind. That is what is happening in today's scenario. Too much of information, too much of inconvenience which is causing to them. The present scenario of COVID only, if you take, there are lots of information. Some is good, some is bad, some is right, some is wrong, some is authenticated, some is not. So whatever is coming in social media is not authenticated. This we have to build in the mind of the student. So whatever flows into the social media, we cannot take it as authenticated, because there were information with the signatures of authority telling it is authenticated, which is fake. So build in the mind of the student that whatever information is posted in social media, let us not act on it immediately. Let us not react to it. Yeah. So this wiseness they have to develop. Students has to develop. It comes with maturity. It comes with a kind of guidance from the parents also, from the teachers also. Say, have a discussion of what information and how to act on it and when to act on it. Yeah. So this requires a good amount of exercise. Doesn't happen in one day, but it needs effort from the parents as well as teachers.
The next question is like this: students do not have enough background and are not ready to do extra study to cover the gaps in skill. How will we handle this?
Okay, they are not ready to take any. In fact, assignments are only not submitted by all the students. They don't spend any extra time apart from the classrooms, which we teachers keep on doing. So, how to address this? This is very interesting and very applicable for majority of the class students also. That is where you have a combination of how you are giving your task. So suppose your objective is to test the students whether they understood the concept or not. Then give an online quiz. And if you are asking them to demonstrate something or explain something or giving a small project, ask them to make a video and send. So change your method of how you are giving the assignment. Maybe the method you are giving the assignment they are not liking. Try and do something new in which they would like to give. Or have a combination. You give an option. Option 1, you can submit in the hard copy. Option 2, you can submit in a video. Option 3, you can send an audio if it is a talk or ideas which you are sending. So try and see how your class is accepting all this. I know this requires some experimentation, but having said, to ensure everybody submits it, have a blended method of how you can give the assignment and get the work done. But inevitably, all students has to do assignments because they know that is connected to their marks, that is connected to the evaluation and assessment. They will do it.
The next question is like this. 1/3 of students feel the facilities provided by college and parents do not meet their expectations. How do we handle it?
This is the biggest cause of misery, not only for students. Expectations doesn't match for anybody. Wife expectation doesn't match with husband, teacher expectation doesn't match with student expectation doesn't match with anybody. So this is the expectation gap will continue. That cannot be avoided, but we can try to address it. Knowing the expectations, that is where we take feedback, right? So we collect feedback from student about teacher, about the faculty or teacher, about the institute, about the facilities which are provided. I hope that is part of NAC also now. We are mandatorily taking it. So take time to time feedback and know their expectations. Maybe sometime the methodology the teacher thinks it is correct, it is not reaching to the student properly. The teacher is not checking. So take feedback. Either we have a monthly feedback or feedback in a semester. These expectations can be known orally, they might not tell it. But take a feedback, get a feeler from them of what is. So that is helping us to improve. If you want to check your class feedback, daily also teacher can post a Google form with 2-3 questions. Anonymous. They need not give their name also. So with this, we can try to catch up or at least reduce the gap to meet the expectations of the students. It applies for teachers, it applies for institutes also.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. One last question.
Yes, madam.
Nowadays, students are quite good with their studies and also very good at things which they are not supposed to do. How do we handle it?
For example, what is that? I didn't get the
question
example.
is not.
Question is clear. Question is clear, which they are not supposed to. If you can have an example, they are good at what they are not supposed to do. Give an example.
Maybe being mischievous in the class, or maybe outside the class, inside the class, not maintaining the decorum, not following the code of conduct of the college, anything. So
that is what
supposed to do.
Correct. That is what is the characteristic of Zen Z, what we are discussing. So what the present mindset of the teachers of all whatever we have come through, maybe we are in the age group of 30s or 40s or 50s, our mindset is the student has to sit straight in the classroom and listen to the teacher and take down the notes given and submit the assignments, which is not the cup of tea for the Zen Z. So have some activities in the classroom. As I said, your classroom has a combination of students. Learners are different. So when you observe that somebody is mischievous in the class, instead of taunting them, throw them some activity on them. Let them come and explain what you are explaining. Let them bring some good YouTube video connected to it and project it in the classroom. So these mischievous students, when you say they know they are good in academics, they are very sharp, they are very intelligent, give activities which engages them productively. So when they have free time, they engage in activities outside the classroom. Many of the time it happens that they have so much time that they try to put it into unnecessary things. So try to reduce their free time by putting them into constructive activities. Especially students who are good, who are sharp, who are intelligent. Many times we use the statement the students are useless. But I say that students are used less. They have so much of capacity and potential, we fail to tap them. Give them a project, give them a task, give them an assignment, let them come with innovative things. Let them, each day you make the class engaging by giving some new task to them, which they have to come and prepare and do. It might not apply for all the students. Let 2-3 students whom you have identified as mischievous, give them the task. Let them come back and do it in the class. They will enjoy it. And also when they are doing such things in the campus, make them as campus managers or make them as student coordinators who will take care of discipline in the campus. They themselves get corrected.
Thank you, Bala ma'am. One more question has come up.
Yes.
I think this is the last question. These days, students are very much frustrated, even the small kids. How to handle them?
Students are frustrated with What?
Students are frustrated, and even the small kids are frustrated. They are getting
Small
frustrated.
kids.
Hmm. How do we handle them?
First of all, children doesn't know the meaning of frustration. Maybe we are defining it as frustration. If I understand, there is nothing word like frustration. It is a kind of disappointment. They want something, they are not getting it. So you define it as frustration. They want a mobile, a particular branded mobile, they are not getting it. You define it as frustration. Yeah. And teacher is asking you to submit the assignment and you don't have the capability, that is frustration. There is shortage of attendance, we label it as frustration, but it is not like that. Children are not like that. Frustration is not their cup of tea. Disappointment is not part of their lifestyle. So this disappointment, this start creating stories and telling them that what privileges or what fortunate life each one of them are having. Show them the stories of disadvantaged. Show them the stories that where there is no privilege for other students to come to the college and study. Give them the stories of the people who are physically challenged, still they have made it to Olympics, still they have made it to achieve gold medals in their life. Give the stories to help them understand that whatever we are given by God, we are blessed. And there are many other group or lot which is not having this privilege of sitting in the classroom and talking like this and making complaints. Even it applies to our children also. Show them those who are not having these privileges what we are having. Anything is abundance in the current generation. Gen Z is born with abundance. The word abundance absolutely applies for them. Technology abundance, resources abundance, yeah, parental care abundance, yeah, because both parents are earning, they don't mind spending too much money. This abundance is creating a lot of disappointment or frustration for them when they are not getting a particular material from the parents. It might be a mobile or a toy or something which they don't have. So this disappointment ratio or the level has to be reduced. One at the family, second at the teachers. See, all the behavioral issues what we are discussing in the form of questions, it has something to do with the family also. Many times parents feel that it is teachers' responsibility. And we feel that it is parents' responsibility, but I say that it is both responsibility because the time they spend in the school, that is valuable for us. College is valuable for us. The time they spend in the family, because they see parents, their behavior, their siblings, that is equal to be balanced. So this disappointment or frustration has to be addressed both by the parents and teachers in sync. If all of us teach the same language, that all of us are blessed and should be grateful for what we are and display by setting an example, I'm sure that this frustration will reduce, will definitely reduce.
Thank you so much for patiently answering all our questions.
It's my privilege, Savita. I always welcome. I would like to listen to faculty, but anyway, I could answer the questions. That is,
Thank you,
very
ma'am.
happy.
Thank you for enriching us on uh, managing Generation Z and also enlightening us on the transformation of the lecturer from being a lecturer to the coach. Now I hand over the session to our IQAC coordinator, Akshata, to render vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I, Akshata Rai, on behalf of the Oxford College of Science, would like to thank Dr. Balakoteshwari for her enriching and informative session. Like you said, ma'am, using social media approaches and infographics can help the students understand and interact and learn better, especially in the current scenario where online learning has become a necessity rather than an option. Thank you, ma'am. We look forward to more such interactive sessions with you. I would
Thank
also
you.
like to thank the principal, vice principals, and all the faculty members for attending the session and hope all of us are now better equipped for managing Gen Z. Thank you.
I should thank you, madam, for giving me the opportunity, and thanks, Savita. Thanks, Oxford College of Science and the IQAC coordinator. It is such a wonderful topic, and I know all of us are in journey. There is no destination for it, but then we are all traveling in this scenario of handling the students both at college and at home, because all of us are parents also. But I really hope that we are equipped and we are prepared for this change. And I'm sure that all of us are going to face this challenge and help our students to be wonderful citizens of the nation. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.